Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to this webinar, or more specifically, office hours. Pardon me, office hours. Something that we're doing that's just a little bit different to kind of introduce you to some very practical ways where we are seeing best practices or getting questions as we're going to explore today related to how to apply AI in teaching and learning in the most effective ways. My name is Jim Wagstaff. If we've not met before, I'm one of the co-founders of Noodle Factory, and really excited to talk to you just for a very few minutes about one very specific approach that we're going to discuss. Uh, as we kick off, let me just ask you a quick question, and I want you to think about your typical week. How many of you are using tools like ChatGPT or Copilot, or if you're in Singapore, maybe Pair or SLS? Claude, Gemini, really any one of, particularly, I'm thinking general purpose generative AI tools. So classically, ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, Gemini. Are you using that? Are you doing that often on a weekly basis, maybe even a daily basis? And are you doing that to specifically create content, materials, exercises, approaches for your students? So are you genuinely happy or generally happy with the sort of results that you're getting? I think all of us are probably using general purpose tools. I certainly do. They can be very useful, but they can also be a little bit frustrating, especially as you try to shape the content or shape the activities into something that is ultimately going to be useful in your teaching for your students, for the benefit of those students. So there is a little bit of a gap when it comes to teaching and applying the outputs from the tools in our teaching practice. And that gap is specifically what we're here to talk about today, because the frustration isn't that AI doesn't work. It certainly does work, and it gets better every single week. Uh, for us and for students, the tools have been an incredible, kind of a double-edged sword, but they've been an incredible boost to our ability to do really creative things, things that, like today, I created a little piece of software to support a workshop that I'm doing, something that I don't have the talent to do, but with the help of generative AI, I can do things like that instantly. So it isn't about the fact that AI doesn't work. It's about, is AI and the way we're using AI fully aligned to what our students need, or are we really getting kind of a watered down version initially that we're taking a lot of time having to reshape that, to repurpose that into something that's actually usable? So today, I want to talk to you about specifically why that happens and some practical things that we can do and what that actually looks like when we are able to fix it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen just so you can see what I'm seeing. And I'm going to jump over here to Noodle Factory, and I'm going to look at the student view because I want you to look at something, and we're going to compare and contrast ChatGPT specifically. We could do this in any tool, but I'll use ChatGPT because, in my experience, a lot of teachers, a lot of students are using ChatGPT for their own purposes. It is the OG of general purpose tools. We're coming up on 4 years with ChatGPT, and on November 30th, as a matter of fact, is the 4 year anniversary of when ChatGPT was released to the world, for better or worse. Um, Now, if I look at ChatGPT and I go in and I ask a question about nutrition, this is the unit that we're going to come back to and look at in Noodle Factory. So I'm studying nutrition. It's based on the course content for my nutrition course, and I'm specifically in Unit 1 looking at elements of what it takes to design a healthy diet. And one of the topics that we're looking at are the concepts of macronutrients, micronutrients, and specific foods, and which contain macro and micronutrients, and why that matters. So I'm going to ask a question of ChatGPT, and specifically, I'm interested in, does milk contain micro and macronutrients? Oops. Make sure I can spell correctly, or both. So simple question. I'm kind of using general purpose tools here, like a lot of us do. It's a substitute for search, not the best prompt, but I get an answer, and sure enough, milk contains both macronutrients, micronutrients, and the notion that milk is mostly water, which is also an essential nutrient. Now, that's good, but if as a student or even as a teacher, if I wanted to take that further, I really do have to get better at prompting, right? So if I want to create course materials, activities, things like that, I've got to give a better prompt, which I think by this point, probably all of us understand what it means to prompt well. But as a student, I might be interested in this information, but what if I want to be tutored on the course content that I'm taking? That might mean, in the extreme, dragging in materials and creating kind of a mini tutor or a mini activity, getting some sort of help on that. Uh, Look at this if I go over into Noodle Factory, something that's already been set up for me, which, by the way, did not take a lot of time. We'll look at that in a moment. But here's my unit one, designing a healthy diet. That's already there for me. And I've been in here before. There's lots of activities, there's pre-reading. I can review the concepts of macronutrients, micronutrients, and the six classes of nutrients, and you can just continue learning. So if I come back in, my tutor is ready to go, and I'll say, yeah, let's let's pick up let's pick up where we left off. Now, this is something that's really important because there is a persistence of memory of not only the content, the course structure, the learning pathways, the learning outcomes, but also where I am, how I'm progressing against those learning outcomes. So my tutor is going to go ahead and pick back up with uh, macronutrients, micronutrients. These sorts of visuals are pulled directly from my textbook, the course content that my lecturer has uploaded. So this is not about teaching you macro and micronutrients, but just giving you the sense that as a student, whether it's the referenceability of the information, it's coming from my textbook, being able to see exactly the progress that I'm making and the sorts of things that I still have to do. You know, that level of detail for myself as a student, but really importantly for my lecturer, my teacher, being able to see what I'm doing, what I'm asking. If I have a misconception that I keep struggling with around a particular topic, having that visibility individually with my class and bringing that back into forums or classroom discussions. That's just something that you don't get with a general purpose tool, as good as they are. I feel like, too, I should probably say this is not about putting down general purpose tools. Students are going to continue to use them. We are going to continue to use them. There's a balance, though. If we're talking about actual teaching and learning applications, there is the need to have that visibility, a level of control over what students are seeing in responses. If I'm using the materials that we're already using in class, there's a type of control that I have over that in a very positive way, not to surveil students, not to limit the sorts of things that they can explore, but to make sure that they're getting the most accurate, most relevant information. And then there's also privacy and security. So this is all within in a healthy way, a walled garden where students are able to really stay with what we've got in the course. So let me show you what this looks like in terms of how we got here. And we'll come back into the content. I want to show you some other examples of how we can progress and different questions and approaches that we can take in the content. But you might be thinking, well, that all seems very difficult. Um, Actually, it's not. The knowledge base that we've got in terms of the content that is in here for this particular course and this unit on designing a healthy diet, very straightforward to set up. And I'm going to show you uh, how I would do that if I want to just add in some additional content. And I might create a new knowledge group. or I might just add in some additional content for that particular course. These are the sorts of things that if I want to just set up some contextualized chat, I can add a subgroup around here, and very easy for me to just drag in content. I can bring that in from a document. I can bring that in from a website. I can bring that in from my learning management system. I can bring it in from SharePoint. There's just so many different sources that I've already got that I'm already using for my class that I can drag this information in. In this case, I'm just going to drag in, this is an open source textbook. I'm just going to drag that in, and essentially it's there for me. It's ready to go. I upload that. It's a pretty big document. So it's a little over 180 megabytes, so not a small document. So it's checking that. But once that's ready to go, I hit OK. I can walk away. And essentially, that's going to start building a knowledge base related to that textbook. So whether it's activities related to all of this content, whether it is, as you can see here, we've got the contextualized chat that's being set up, but there's so many different pathways that I can go down. But let me jump back over here to the student view, and let's look at a couple of things that we can do. Let's ask maybe a more difficult question. I'll go back in and we'll continue our learning. Jump back in. And maybe I feel like I'm a little bit lost in this unit. And I'll just ask, can we review the key concepts of Unit 1 on healthy diets? So imagine asking something like that to a general purpose tool like ChatGPT. Obviously, it's not going to know anything about Unit 1. It doesn't have that context. It doesn't know the syllabus. Certainly doesn't know where I am against my learning outcomes. But it's going to come back and it's going to give me a summary. Here's some of the key characteristics of a healthful diet. So this is what Unit 1 is all about. We've got our nutrients in 6 classes, our macronutrients, micronutrients in 6 classes of nutrients, the different tools for planning that are a part of Unit 1. This comes directly from the textbook. So another thing that I can do is if I go back over here into my unit and I look at some of these insights that we were checking out before, there's feedback. So I've got feedback from my previous engagement with the tutor. This is visible to my teacher, my lecturer. My progress is there, where I'm doing well, where I have some additional work to do. And there's even recommendations on next steps. So the concepts that I still need to review, practicing how nutrition affects health and disease risk. And then there's a role play, playing the role of a dietitian, something that I haven't done yet as a part of the unit. So you can see that this idea of pulling content directly from the course, using the right terminology, referencing the right frameworks, referencing the syllabus, all of this is clearly very different from what you would get from a general purpose tool. The Noodle Factory environment is answering the way it is because it has been built from the course content. For example, it knows what week 3 is. It knows what's meant to be covered in week 3. So whatever it is that I'm using to teach my course, all of that can just be dragged in, or if it's in the learning management system, I can point to that. And that gives me, everything that I need to set up one of these brilliant tutors in just about 10 minutes. So if we go back and we think about what is the future going to look like in terms of the way we use general purpose AI like ChatGPT, the way students do, I think that's only going to increase, but that increases the need for us to have that visibility and control. Generic AI, general purpose AI, is a brilliant generalist, not to overuse that term, because it knows everything about everything in the wider world. At a surface level, It's able to give us answers and exactly what we need. What it doesn't know, though, is what's happening in my syllabus, my module, my case studies, the terminology that we're using, the activities that we're doing. That's not a flaw in the technology. That's just the way that general purpose AI was meant to function. The way a tool like Noodle Factory is meant to function is that it's built on our content. So if we have a specific direction or pathway that we either want to go down or want to take students down, it's very straightforward and easy to do that. Okay, so that's it. I just wanted to share that with you because that's really been something that comes up all the time. Why wouldn't I just use ChatGPT and get my students to use ChatGPT? So before we go, we do have something that we'd like to give you. There is a link that we're going to share with you, and we're going to put a QR code up on the screen. It is the Educator's AI Prompting Guide. So these are 10 prompting patterns that are going to get you better, more course-specific results from any AI tool, including ChatGPT or Copilot or Pair or SLS, whatever it is that you use. This is not Noodle Factory or Walter specific, but it's going to make any AI tool that you're using work just that much harder. So scan the QR code on the screen and we'll send it to you via email right after this session. Now, if you want to try Noodle Factory with your own course content, upload your slides, upload your content. There's no demo that you have to sit through. It's just you coming in and giving some things a try, unless you want some help, that's available to you as well. But if you have the same question coming up again and again from your students, you've answered the same question 50 times from your students, take a look at what happens when you deploy an AI tutor like this and you don't have to answer those questions anymore. So that's actually something that we're going to pick up on next week. So we encourage you to come back and join us same time next week, and we'll look at a very specific type of an approach that you can take with your students, again, using Noodle Factory and how that compares to the way you might be managing things today with a general purpose AI tool. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.